Hi, it's me, that fantasy chick, back again for another week. Um, Another live stream. And I guess it's been a minute since I've been here because I did not make last Wednesday. Sorry about that. But I'm here today. And we're here to talk about The Flash. Uh, the Flash, and it was closing out its big bad. I I'm surprised by that because normally the Flash has two big bads in an extended season in their normal season. I thought since they only had 13 episodes, they were going to do just one long big bad, but they decided no, we're going to do multiple big bads in these 13 episodes. So the Flash closing out the big bad, the Mandalorian, and we're going to talk about some DC Comics on Spotify. So, first, the Flash. So, um, so again, we're dealing with the Red Death, and dealing with the fallout of them destroying her, little time machine, and her being upset or whatever that they did it. So she takes her little rogues, goes to the police station, and begins to sort of take over the city. And you find out she's using Grodd's, having Grodd use his tele. I can't. Why can I say telepathy? Telepathy. Why can't I say that word all of a sudden? Telepathy. He's he's using his telepathy. He's sort of, I don't know how he's transferring it to her, but somehow he's transferring his powers to her. And because of that, because of Grodd's powers, she's able to multiply, and she's able to have multiple multiple versions of her out there while she's talking and being in one place. So they put up a satellite so she can do this all over the world and not just in Central City, telling people to go home, and she was going to take care of crime or whatnot. So basically putting everybody under immediate curfew, and immediately just killing people. Like, dude was all he was doing was stealing the TV, and she like zapped him. Like, so thievery equals death now. I don't think that's justice, but whatever. So she's going around killing all criminals. And um, so Barry had to figure out. So this was the thing that they were saying that Barry had to deal with from the first season or something. It was Grodd. Apparently, after the crisis on Infinite Earths, he got separated from his tribe, and he can't find any other intelligent, primates or whatnot. So he got mad because he felt abandoned by Barry, but Barry had no idea that this was going on. You're intelligent. You could have called. You could well not called. You could have came and visited Barry and be like, "Hey, yo, Barry. So I'm kind of left alone here." You could have did something to you send a letter, send an email, something. But Barry was supposed to just automatically know what happened to you and all of your tribe, but whatever. So because he was upset that Barry abandoned him, he decided to help the Red Death. So Barry had to go with no speed and face Grodd and convince him to help him instead, to abandon the Red Death and help him instead. So they talked it out and they worked it out. And not only did he stop helping the Red Death, he still had, I guess some time ago, Barry had given him a spark of his speed power or whatnot, of the whatever. He's given him a spark, and Grodd still had that. So Grodd was able to give that spark back to Barry, and his powers returned to him, and he was able to speed back to Central City. And so the Red Death was, she was already upset that she lost all of her duplicates, and now Barry was back. So she's spiraling, and she's fighting him, and he was on top, and he's kind of winning. He's chasing her around the city, or is he running from her? Whatever. He's kind of on top. At the beginning of the fight, he's on top. He's on top of the world. But then at one point, she starts beating him. But then his rogues come, and then they have the upper hand. But of course, she end up getting the upper hand again. But who comes in to save the day? The real Batwoman. The real Batwoman comes and lay it all out, and she saves Barry and the rogues and everyone from the Red Death, and it's over. So we get to see the real Batwoman. I forget where they said she was in the meantime, and to explain how she was missing. But I forget how they said why she was missing. But she came in, saved them from the Red Death, and now her and Iris are about to become friends for real. So cute little thing they threw in. So that was the end. So that's the end of the Red Death. They took her. Where did they put her? They put her somewhere. They didn't put her in Argus. I forget where they put her. They put her somewhere where she would, where they could, where she can be held, where they can hold her. Not Iron Heights and not Argus, but somewhere. Okay. Either way, the Red Death is locked up. And so that's the end of that storyline. So 5 episodes in, and that big bad is over. And so then we close out her, and then we close out Joe at the same time, because Joe decides to take his little girl, who they're constantly leaving home alone. Well, not they're leaving home alone. They're leaving. I guess we're supposed to believe they're leaving her with a babysitter. But him and Celeste are always gone from this little girl out, doing Team Flash stuff, and then never at home with this girl. So he's like, I want to raise her away from all of this Central City nonsense. So he's going to take her off into the city and be like, you can come visit us on the weekends, but we getting away from this nonsense. So they closed out Joe, and it felt like they were like this was it. Like, we're not going to see Joe ever again this series. Like, this was his last shot. Like, he's not going to come back from the last episode. Like, he was saying goodbye for real. But we'll see if he comes back and say goodbye on the last episode, or if this is really his very last episode. But he said goodbye, and then there was, at the part of Chester and that girl, they kissed or whatever. I really don't care about this storyline. because she never gave good reason for why she pushed him to the sidelines or whatever. You know, it was always suspect to me. But now all of a sudden she, when he stopped wanting her, now she all up in his face. So there's that. And okay. And then another DC thing we have. Okay, so to keep it along the lines of DC, this article I found on Spotify. Hold on. Where is it? Okay. Okay. Behind Spotify's growing DC Comics Audioverse. Even as the tech giant gets more selective about its big swing originals, the company, like the rest of Hollywood, is leaning into franchises, and Harley Quinn fits the bill. As James Gunn and Peter Safran reshape the DC universe at Warner Brothers Discovery, film and TV aren't the only mediums where iconic characters like Batman, Harley Quinn, and the Joker are taking on new lives. Thanks to an expansive multi-year first look deal with Spotify, DC has attracted new and returning fans to its rich IP without being beholden to the intricacies of a mapped out multiverse, the same actors portraying its characters, or the cost of a typical high wattage and effects heavy superhero production. The partnership kicked off in earnest last year when Spotify and DC released an original story about Batman for an audio series penned by the Dark Knight scribe David S. Goyer, starring Winston Duke as Bruce Wayne. Batman Unburied took on a decidedly darker tone as a psychological thriller that followed Bruce tracking down a serial killer and confronting his own demons along the way. The series was a massive success, at one point unseating the Joe Rogan Experience on Spotify's top podcast charts and landing on the audio giant's year-end rap list for most anticipated podcasts in the US. This year, Spotify has returned with its latest DC installment from Homecoming writer Eli Horowitz, starring Christina Ricci as Harley Quinn, Billy Magnuson as the Joker, and surprise, Justin Hartley as his own version of Batman in a world separate from that of Batman Unburied. So Justin Hartley, Smallville's The Green Arrow, he will always be Oliver Queen to me, is now playing Batman. The audio show Harley Quinn and the Joker's Sound Mind serves as a prequel of sorts as it tracks the beginning of Dr. Harleen Quinzel's journey from star psychiatrist at Arkham Asylum to the villain known as Harley Quinn. But unlike other depictions of Harley's origin story, where the Joker is the one responsible for her transformation, Spotify and Horowitz Harley Quinn shifts the balance of power back to Harley. In this version, Harleen is driven by her desire to help her ailing father and influenced by her growing disillusionment with the inner workings of Gotham City and the power leveraged by the rich Wayne family. The series also comes as Spotify is reevaluating its overall podcast strategy as the market matures for its original programming, which the DC podcast falls into. The audio giant is eyeing large reach while also having a unique story that cuts through the noise. It certainly doesn't mean that they need to be IP driven or celebrity driven, Julie McNamara, who oversees Spotify's originals programming and exclusive partnerships, tells the Hollywood Reporter. But we really do have to be intentional around what kinds of things can break through the clutter. This is clearly a maturing market in audio, and we need to be smart about it. Of course, it doesn't hurt to have a podcast with recognizable characters in Harley Quinn and the Joker, and in talent like Richie and Magnuson. Shortly after its January 31st release, Harley Quinn and the Joker beat out mainstay Joe Rogan for the top spot on Spotify's podcast charts. And the series ends with enough runway that a second season would be a natural next step. For Harley Quinn and the Joker, Spotify again collaborated with Warner Brothers Blue Ribbon Content for production on the series. Peter Girardi, who leads Blue Ribbon Content and Warner Brothers Animation, tells THR that Horowitz brought the initial concept for the audio series to the studio. I've worked on projects with where Harley kind of earns her way into it, and as she gets stronger and more confident, and as she has built her relationship with Poison Ivy or whoever it is, she kind of becomes the Harley we know and love, Girardi says. Eli knew that she was going to know what she wanted and be the manipulator and have the agency from the beginning, which I thought was great. It was a story that I hadn't seen or heard before. When it came to casting the series lead, the team quickly closed in on Christina Ricci. When I saw Misty on Yellow Jackets, I was like, holy shit, that's Harley, Girardi remembers, referring to Ricci's role on the Showtime hit series, that kind of unhinged but calculating, unhinged but nefarious role. That's real Harley energy there. Though Ricci says she was initially a bit intimidated to take on Harley Quinn, she appreciated the more feminist approach to the character and thought her outside perspective as someone who isn't a mega fan of the comics could help further humanize the role. Harley is a real woman in this, and an intelligent woman, an educated woman, and I really like that. Recording of the series took place over the course of a few weeks in a studio in Burbank, where Ricci was at times joined by Magnuson and Hartley, as well as supporting cast members like Amy Sedaris, Fred Melamed, and Elias Koteas, and Stephen Root. For his part, Magnuson says he took inspiration from Mark Hamill and Heath Ledger for his own interpretation. To nail the iconic Joker laugh, Magnuson remembers sitting at home or being in the car trying out different versions of the villain's maniacal cackle. I probably look like a maniac. Okay. So let's skip down. Spotify, which will host its Stream On event on Wednesday, has not yet announced its next project with DC, but all three stars of Harley Quinn and the Joker tell THR they're interested in getting back in the recording booth for more. And for DC, bringing in new fans is always a win. So yeah, they're redoing her. They're redoing Harley Quinn's origin story, but they're giving her more agency. So instead of having her just be, manipulated by Joker, they're giving her more agency as a character, which I think works for the Harley Quinn that we see later on in a lot of these different interpretations of her. But yeah, so I was very interested to see that that the DC audio podcast had a few times unseated Joe Rogan Experience in the number one spot. So, of course, because it's a limited series, it can only do so once. But, each series did so at least one time. So it makes me want to track it down and listen to it, because I did pull out Spotify to listen to a certain Duchess's podcast. So so if I can listen to the Duchess podcast, I can listen to the DC podcast. Um but yeah, so this was interesting. Of course, like I said, it's Smallville, Justin Hartley as Batman. I do remember seeing that he was I think it was on a DC event. Oh goodness, I can't remember. I think it was last year. They had a DC event on YouTube, and I saw that he was going to be voicing Batman. But I thought it was for animation. I didn't realize it was for this podcast. So that was interesting. I don't know if they made it clear back then on the event and I just wasn't listening, or they just really didn't go into it that this was a podcast and not an animation that he was supposed to be voicing the Batman for. But yeah, I want to listen to it now. And I think I want to listen to the Unburied too. I think I want to listen to both Batman, the Unburied, and the Harley Quinn and the Joker one. They both sound interesting. Okay, so now on for the Grogu show. So, Grogu got a lot of he got a lot of play this week. They made it to Mandalore. So instead of they went away, I wasn't expecting to go. I thought that he was going to make a whole journey out of finding this, this missing piece of this robot. So he went to go find this piece. She didn't have a piece. She was like, well, I got this robot. Take this robot. And he actually took the robot. I didn't think he was going to do it, but he did. And they went to Mandalore, and the robot worked just fine. He didn't need the robot that he was insisting on taking with him. The R5 unit worked just fine, and telling him that the air quality was fine and he could survive, and it wasn't poison, and that him and the little Grogu can go out and walk amongst the planet. So he, of course, once they walked amongst the planet, there was a bunch of creatures there that he had to fight off. And as he went down further into the planet, trying to get to the mines, I'm going to say the mines of Moria. That is not it. That is Lords of the Rings. I can't remember the names of the mines, but it's not the mines of Moria. Whatever, the mines. And it's the living waters underneath the mines, whatever. When he was trying to get down to the living waters, he gets caught up by this robot creature. And, Grogu was hanging back. So Grogu, he hung back. The creature didn't see him. And then he's sneaking around, trying to, see what was going on. And as the creature moved off, he tried to use his force to open up the cage. And when that didn't work, Mandalore was like, go get Bo-Katan. And he ran off, got into his pod, raced back up to the ship. And then, of course, right as he got to the entrance of the cave that they went into, there was a creature. But he used his force and knocked that creature out, got into the ship, and turned to the R5 unit, because the R5 unit is able to um, the R5 unit is able to pilot the ship along with the Mandalorian with Din Djarin. So he pointed to the planet. Jin had already told um, Grogu, like, this is where Bo-Katan is, this is Mandalore, this is that. So when he told him to go to Bo-Katan, looked at the R5 and pointed to Bo-Katan's planet, and R5 took him to that planet. So when she came out, pissed because she had told Din Djarin to go away, and she was getting ready to come out there and kick his ass. And when she came out there and it was just Grogu, she was like, okay, something's up. So she took the R5. So she had her robot download the R5 units file so they can figure out where they went, what was going on, and then found out they went to Mandalore, blah 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 blah, to Grogu, to the planet. It was like, okay, Grogu, you got to lead me to him. And Grogu was acting all scared, but she was like, I know you scared, but you don't have to lead me to him. So then Grogu, turned on his little light and led her to Jin, and then they she fought the thing, and she had to fight because she fought that thing at least 3 different times, because she fought it. It went into she fought it and won. Its head detached from his body, went into another body, and came after her again. And she had to fight that again. And then I think she she might have fought it. I don't know. She might have fought it another time, but she fought it like 2-3 times before finally she was able to put it down for good, and then get Din Djarin out of whatever he was doing. Because I think they was like taking his blood. For what? I don't know. But if they were taking his blood, it looked mighty watery. I don't know what they were taking from him, but it looked watery. It didn't look like blood. It looks like some kind of fluid. I don't know what they were taking from him. But but he got himself together, and she was like, okay, let's go. He's like, I'm not going with you. I need to go to the living waters. So she was like, okay, I'll take you there. You'll never find it without me. So they get to the living waters, and he says his little spiel, and he goes down into the water, and bloop, he sinks down, and she has to jump into the water after him, and she is flying through the water. I don't know how deep this water is, but he is finally at the very bottom. I don't know, somehow he got knocked out, and she had to bring him out, pull him out. And as she's pulling him out, she sees an eye, and there's this huge monster in the water. Huge monster. But she goes by him, and then they jump out the water, and that's the end of the show. That's the end of the show. Just them getting out the water. That's it. But I'm like, okay, so are we gonna deal with the monster next? This monster is good. They're gonna have to deal with this monster next week. I can just feel it. I feel it in my shando. They're gonna have to deal with this monster next week. And little Grogu gonna have to pull out his Jedi powers and work on that monster, because that thing was huge and it was in the water, and Din Djarin was knocked the heck out. So I don't know if he's going to be of any use next week. Um, but it was a cute little episode. It was cute with the way the little with Grogu and him making his little noises and being all scared but going anyway. It was so cute. It was so adorable. But but yeah, so that is it for the Mandalorian. Can't wait for next episode to see what they're gonna do on the Grogu show again. I promise I'll be back this week on Wednesday. I promise I'll be back this Wednesday. But no matter what, Friday I have a video. It's going to be a Smallville video. So that's so there'll be a Smallville video on Friday. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching. See you on Wednesday.